Namaskar. Today is the auspicious day of Janma Tithi of Swami Vivekananda. Om Namah Sri Yotirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. I welcome everyone to this webinar on Swami Vivekananda, the absolute Sāmbā Sadāshiva. Today is the Swamiji's Janma Tithi, and from every corner of the world, his followers are celebrating this auspicious day. There is no need for any introduction to Swamiji. I would like to begin with Swamiji's one quote, that is, quote, "My name should not be made prominent. It is my ideas that I want to see realized. The disciples of all the prophets have always inextricably mixed up the ideas of the master with person, and at last killed the ideas for the person. The disciples of Sri Ramakrishna must guard against doing the same thing. Work for the idea, not the person." Unquote. May Swamiji grants us the strength to follow his message and fulfill his dream. Today, now we are starting our webinar. First, I like to welcome is anyone sharing the screen? Can you please stop screen sharing now? If anyone sharing your screen, please stop the screen sharing now. So I like to welcome our Master of Ceremonies, Dr. Jayashish Bandopadhyay. Dr. Bandopadhyay is an initiated disciple of the Ramakrishna Mission. He has been living in England for the last 20 years and is working as a consultant ophthalmic surgeon at the James Cook University Hospital, Middlesbrough. Dr. Bandopadhyay, I like to begin with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hemanti, for the kind word in the introduction, and thank you for organizing this webinar. We have got a lot of eminent speakers today on this wonderful occasion of Janma Tithi of Swamiji. Now, our first speaker is Mr. Gorik Datto. Please welcome Mr. Gorik Datto from the Vedanta Society of Toronto, Canada. Mr. Datto is an initiated devotee of Ramakrishna Mutt. He is a member of the Vedanta Society of Toronto and a Sanskrit chanting teacher at the Vedanta Vidya Mandir. He strongly believes in the principles expounded by Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ma Sharada Devi, and Swamiji. He is an electrical engineer by profession and holds a master's degree from the University of Toronto and bachelor's degree from the IIT Kharagpur, both in electrical engineering. Thank you, Mr. Datto. Namaste, and please welcome to this wonderful webinar.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. So as Hemantidi mentioned about the ideas of Swamiji, today I'm going to read a small piece from the inspired talks by Swami Vivekananda. These teachings will shine some light on how Swamiji looked at the world. These teachings were given to a group of select disciples at the Thousand Island Park in New York State in the summer of 1895, and was recorded by Miss S.E. Waldo, one of his disciples. Swamiji says, "Stand upon the self, then only can we truly love the world. Take a very, very high stand. Knowing our universal nature, we must look with perfect calmness upon all the panorama of the world. It is but babies' play, and we know that, so cannot be disturbed by it. If the mind is pleased with praise, it will be displeased with blame. All pleasures of the senses, or even of the mind, are evanescent. But within ourselves is the one true unrelated pleasure, dependent upon nothing. It is perfectly free. It is bliss. The more our bliss is within, the more spiritual we are. The pleasure of the self is what the world calls religion. The internal universe, the real, is infinitely greater than the external, which is only a shadowy projection of the true one. This world is neither true nor untrue. It is the shadow of truth. Imagination is the gilded shadow of truth, says the poet. We enter into creation, and then for us it becomes living. Things are dead in themselves. Only we give them life. And then, like fools, we turn around and are afraid of them or enjoy them. But be not like certain fisherwomen who, caught in a storm on their way home from market, took refuge in the house of a florist. They were lodged for the night in a room next to the garden, where the air was full of the fragrance of flowers. In vain did they try to rest, until one of their number suggested that they wet their fish baskets and place them near their heads. Then they all fell into a sound sleep. The world is our fish basket. We must not depend upon it for enjoyment. Those who do are the tamasas, or the bound. Then there are the rajasas, or the egotistical, who talk always about I. They do good work sometimes and may become spiritual. But the highest are the sattvikas, the introspective, those who live only in the self. These three qualities, tamas, rajas, and sattva, are in everyone, and different ones predominate at different times. Creation is not a making of something. It is the struggle to regain the equilibrium, as when atoms of cork are thrown to the bottom of a pail of water and rush to rise to the top, singly or in clusters. Life is and must be accompanied by evil. A little evil is the source of life. The little wickedness that is in the world is very good, for when the balance is regained, the world will end, because sameness and destruction are one. When this world goes, good and evil go with it. But when we can transcend this world, we get rid of both good and evil and have bliss. There is no possibility of ever having pleasure without pain, good without evil, for living itself is just the lost equilibrium. What we want is freedom, not life, not pleasure, not good. Creation is infinite, without beginning and without end, the ever-moving ripple in an infinite lake. There are yet unreached depths and others where the equilibrium has been regained. But the ripple is always progressing. The struggle to regain the balance is eternal. Life and death are only different names for the same fact. The two sides of the one coin, both are Maya, the inexplicable state of striving at one time to live and a moment later to die. Beyond this is the true nature, the Atman. While we recognize a God, it is really only the self which we have separated ourselves from and worship as outside of us. But it is our true self all the time, the one and only God. May Swamiji grant us the boon that we can realize our true selves as soon as possible. With that wish, I end the reading. Thank you. Thank you for the kind opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Datta, for the wonderful talk. It was absolutely enlightening to us. Without much delay, I would welcome our next speaker, Dr. Rita Bhattacharya, into this meeting. Dr. Bhattacharya from Kolkata is an Indologist. She won 2 gold medals in a post-graduation and has received her PhD from the Department of Sanskrit, Jadavpur University. She visited many universities outside India and has presented a huge number of papers in national and international forums. Dr. Bhattacharya has, apart from her academic career, she's also acts as a priest and is a social worker. She's the National Vice President of Shakti, the women wing of the Vigyan Bharati, and she's a national project member of the Bharat Vikas Parishad and president of the West Bengal chapter of Lok Bhasha Prachar Samiti. She's also entrusted and associated with many national and international organizations and institutions. Swamiji laid great emphasis on women education. I'll share a small story here. One of my four great-grandfathers, who used to be Vidyalankar, great scholar, but his wife, he lived around the time of Swamiji, but his wife could only write the B, the Ba actually, because she was not educated. The Swamiji laid so much emphasis on the women education. He mentioned Gargis and Maitreys will be born. And look at that, what Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. Barman, we have got 2 very, very eminent speakers, and they're great Panditanis in their own field. Please welcome Dr. Bhattacharya into this wonderful forum.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the nice introduction. Welcome to all.
Dr. Bhattacharya, can we have you on video, Dr. Bhattacharya?
Yes, video is on. Video is on.
Okay. It's all right. We can hear you.
Yeah, but your screen is turning black.
Huh?
Yes, now it is perfect.
We can see you now. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
No, the camera is showing the back.
Just a minute.
Yeah, sure. Take your time, please.
Just a minute. I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And Hoimanti, can you share the slides which I have sent you in email? Is it possible for you?
I'm checking. Just give me a moment. I can share.
Okay.
I can share. Absolutely, I can share.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning and good evening to all of you. My humble pranam to this august guest, and my humble pranam to the lotus feet of 2 Maharaj who are present here. My topic is Swami Vivekananda's view on women education. I'm quoting him, there is no chance for the welfare of the world unless the condition of women are improved. It is not possible for a bird to fly on only one wing. This is said by Swami Vivekananda. And actually, Swami Vivekananda was very much keen to empower all Indian women, especially in Bengal. all the downtrodden women, they were suffering a lot. So because of that, his mind was crying. Swami Vivekananda, can you doing that? Okay. Swami Vivekananda.
Yes, I'm just starting now. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
This is the introduction I'm telling, because slides are very few, just 1 hour before I made these slides only. Swami Vivekananda, the ideal speaker of women and education at that time, that is the 19th century. Among the modern Indian, the religion reformers and our social reformer, there were many. I have mentioned only some few names. So that is the Dayananda Saraswati, Raja Ram Mohan Rai. He was 1772 to 1833. Isha Chandra Vidyasagar, Savitribai Phule, Pandita Ramabai. There are lots of names who work for women. But Swami Vivekananda, 1863 to 1902, only few, within this few years, what he did splendid. So he always thinking that men are and women are same. Vivekananda is the first monk to upload and do work for freedom and equality of women, and realized the importance of women for the society as well as for the nation. He identified that the ignorance of women was the main hindrance for the progress of India. That is why Swami Vivekananda called his very, very dear disciple, Sister Nivedita. So what Swami Vivekananda said, I'm just following this, my PowerPoint presentation. Another quotation, what is the progress of the nation? How the nation will progress? Swamiji said, quote, the best thermometer to the progress of a nation is its treatment of its women. So how you treat women, our Vedic culture showed us. So I'll tell it later. Though the women's place is above all. So they meeting. Can you see? Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr.
Hello?
Bhattacharya, we can hear you. Yes, Dr. Bhattacharya, we can hear you.
Okay.
You were just partially
So,
muted.
I'm muted.
You know, Dr. Bhattacharya, you're not muted now.
Okay.
Please carry on.
Okay. And the Swamiji's views on education was that is oneness. And what Swamiji said, that education is the manifestation of mankind, which is already in man. Here you have to understand, man doesn't mean the literary man. Man means human being. So like Rabindranath Tagore, like Gandhiji, Aurobindo, Swami Vivekananda, they did so many things. They prescribed so many do's and don'ts for this, their teaching. And they believed in the Brahmacharya ashram, which is that is Guru and his disciples will live closer association and as a family. So that is we call ashram. We have 4 ashramas, we all know. And Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, he did the Shantiniketan. Gandhiji, we know the Sabarmati Ashram. The Aurobindo did the Auroville and the Pondicherry. So like that, Swami Vivekananda also said the relation between Guru and Shishya should be very close. If the Shishya will stay at Guru's residence or the place as a family, so they can learn not only the subject, they can learn day to day what they have to learn. There is a very small, big thing. And for life, they will learn from their gurus. So following this basic principle of this education, Swami Vivekananda said that education is not only for getting information, rather it should develop character, mental power, intelligence, and include the all the power within ourselves and self-confidence and self-reliant. Education should develop a person physically, mentally, and spiritually. So without spirituality, education is nothing. So spirituality is must for an education. While giving educational qualification, the technical education was necessary for the industrial growth, which would lead to the economic prosperity for the nation. So now our respected Indian Prime Minister Modi ji said, Atmanirbhar Bharat. This is said by Swami Vivekananda in 19th century. Practicing the brahmacharya is the very essential for getting knowledge. The concentration is the key to all the knowledges. Swami Vivekananda had too much immense concentration and the memory. He always used to say, without concentration, you can't do anything. So education should be foster spiritual faith, devotion, and self-surrender in the individual, and should foster full development through service and sacrifice. Education should develop character, mental power, intelligence, and include all self-confidence together with the self-reliant. Already I mentioned it. So all the subjects must be included in this curriculum, which promotes the material and spiritual advancement of a child. So this is in general Swami Vivekananda's idea on education. The Swami Vivekananda, what he did, the origin of thinking of Swami Vivekananda on education is, this is very, very, very key word, that is applied Vedanta. Vedanta theory inspired his various activities to serve a man, to expand education. He also applied Vedanta theory to erudite superstition, ignorance, and illiteracy. According to the Swamiji, education is the, already I said, manifestation of the perfection already in man. He always says that the aim of human life is to realize the Brahman, the ultimate truth, and it can be done only through education. And Swamiji said that it should be, we have to think oneness. This is Vedanta. Aham Brahmasmi, Ekam Eva Advityam. Swamiji connected Western culture with Indian rituals. The assimilation of Western idea and the Vedanta will be a very forceful tool for the education. Swamiji said, quote, what we want are Western science coupled with Vedanta. The education is very, very powerful tool to know thyself, to know own self. So Swami Vivekananda always asked all the women to be educated. They should have the heart like Indian women. They should be Sita, Savitri, and all, but they should know the Western culture, their punctuality, their dedication, and all this. So combination of these two can be brought to any Western person if that lady can teach one the girls or women in India. Then he approached his dear disciple, Sister Nivedita, and Sister Nivedita came to India, we all know, and he established a school, which is one of the renowned school in Kolkata even today, the Sister Nivedita Girls School. And the Swami Vivekananda said that Nivedita should teach the students. Nivedita used to go, that is a long story, to everybody's house and tell them with bare feet, please give your daughter, I want to teach them, like that. And what Swamiji said, what will be the curriculum for those girls? So the school should teach modern value, literature. All the students, girls, should know the Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is the powerful tool only to know all the scriptures and our ancient India. And grammar, craft, cooking, home science, along with japa, dhyana, worship, meditation, everything. They have to learn all these. So they, all the girls and women should be very powerful in all the aspects. The main objective of education is to teach women how to deal with the negativity, how to deal with the coming problems. But Swami Vivekananda's education for women was very positive. He never believed in any negativity. So through the education, Swamiji thought the all girls or women should be modern Sita, Savitri, Maitri, Gargi, if they get the proper education. This is the purpose Swami Vivekananda established that school. And Ma Sarada was the first lady who was in that school and blessed them how to deal with the students. And the for women education, Swamiji said all women should learn how to deal with society and how to behave. That is also a very important thing. So Swamiji said that his quotation, 50 males can win India in 50 years, which can be done with a few weeks by 50 women, or 500 male can win India in 50 years, which can be done with a few weeks by 500 women. Women are very, very forceful tool for India's development. Our right to interference is limited. So women must be put in a position to solve their own problems in their own way. No one can or ought to do this for them. They will decide what is good for them, how to deal their family, their society, how to deal with that. And our Indian women are capable to doing it as any in the world. They can, throughout the world, whatever is needed, Indian women can do. Nowadays, we can see being a scientist, being a pilot, being a social reformer, all are women. They are coming and these women are increasing a lot. Swami Vivekananda rightly pointed out that unless Indian women secure a responsible place in this country, in our country, nation can never progress forward. Swamiji said, the progress of a nation depends on the treatment of women. So, according to him, there is no chance for welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved. It is one of the foremost concern of the government of India as well as the society in a large. Swami Vivekananda's vision on women education and today's mission for eruditing gender gap in literature, in all the literary rate also is coming very closer. Both indicates one goal, progress of women, and thereby the progress of entire nation. Many path, one goal. Arise, awake, and stop not. Still the goal is reached. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhattacharya, for the wonderful talk on women empowerment and emphasis Swamiji laid on women's education. It was absolutely a wonderful talk, and from what an erudite scholar like you, which Swamiji has mentioned about Gayatris and Matris born. And now I would like to add what I mentioned earlier, that I just read a small excerpt from Swamiji's letter that he writes that once more will Gargis and Maitris be born into the world. What do I find in America and Europe? The worship of Shakti, the worship of power. Yet they worship her ignorantly through sense gratification. So slightly different from what he wanted, actually. Not just empowerment or not just education, but there he says that imagine then what a lot of good will they develop, achieve, who will worship her with all purity in his Swatvika spirit, looking upon her as their mother. So a lot of Indian touch to it, which probably we are forgetting a little bit. I don't know what you think about that.
Yes, definitely. Actually, because of time constraint, I just missed that. Swami Vivekananda was just crying for the one Mahila Mat, the monastic center for ladies. And he was always admired Ma Sharda Devi as a goddess, living goddess, goddess Saraswati, goddess Durga. And he always wanted that everybody should know our culture. They should be like our Gargi, Maitri, like that. But they have to know, they have to come out, they have to be vocal like Western women. The combination of two he wanted. Thank you. Namaskar.
Namaskar. I'll go to the next speaker, who is Dr. Gautam Ghosh. Dr. Gautam Ghosh is an author, advocate, president of the SAARC Human Rights Foundation. We are very honored to have him. It's a video of Haimanti, right? Am I correct? Okay, right. India, the secretary of the India-Canada Consortium. He is a prescient public figure, a politician by passion, a prolific author. He has written many articles and books, and his book titled Police Accountability at the Cutting Edge level has found its place in leading institutions and libraries across the world, including London School of Economics. Dr. Ghosh has been awarded designation status by the Arts Council. This is a formerly Museums, Library and Archives Council, and has recently been appointed as the president of the SARC Human Rights Foundation India chapter. We are so honored to have you, sir, in this forum. Please accept your pranam. It's a video, friends, so please bear with us if the quality is not great.
Namaskar. Before I start saying anything on Swami Vivekananda, henceforth referred as Swamiji, I have to quote what his Guru and my eternal Gurudev, Sri Ramakrishna, has said. Sri Ramakrishna said, "There are no unanswered prayers. Keep the faith and drop the fear. Life is a mystery to solve, not a problem to resolve. Trust me, life is wonderful if you know how to live." Saying this, I find that Swamiji has traversed exactly in this direction. Swamiji's famous saying, "Sisters and Brothers of America," which is Swamiji's opening line of speech in Chicago, is known to every educated Indian as well as to people across the globe. But it's high time that we should know Swami Vivekananda's discourse on religious tolerance and unity, mutual recognition, exclusion of extremism, and inclusion, which has achieved unparalleled success throughout the world. To quote Swamiji, "I'm proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance." Continue the quote. Swamiji said, "The Christian is not to become a Hindu or a Buddhist, nor a Hindu or a Buddhist to become Christian, but each must assimilate the spirit of others and yet preserve his individuality and grow according to his own law of growth." Unquote. In other words, Swamiji preached for respecting other religions. For India, Swamiji was specific. Swamiji has specifically emphasized on Hindu-Muslim fraternity and unity. To quote Swamiji once more, "Our motherland is in a junction of two great systems, Hinduism and Islam, Vedanta, the brain, and Islam, the body." Unquote. Swamiji was an unparalleled crusader anti-racism. During his stay in America, he spent his time both in the East Coast as well as in the Midwest, noticing firsthand the de facto segregation that kept the whites and the blacks apart. On a train ride through Tennessee, Swamiji refused to sit with the whites-only train car, choosing instead to sit in the car reserved for the African Americans in order to highlight the injustice of segregation. He understood the paradox of his position as a privileged visitor in a nation which denied basic rights. He was also deeply troubled by the contradictions within a country where Christianity was preached but not practiced, particularly in following simple truths of equality and tolerance for others. African American intellectual and activist, namely W.E.B. Du Bois, understood this, exactly what Swamiji meant, and through his later correspondence with Lala Rajpat Rai and Rabindranath Tagore, he expressed his greatest reverence towards the icon Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji's profound regards for human rights is evident from his sayings. "So long as millions live in hunger and ignorance, I hold every man a traitor who, having been educated at their expense, pays not the least heed to them. Unquote. The source appears from a letter which Swamiji has written to his friend way back in 1894 in Chicago. After 80 long years, on 16th November 1974, the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Eradication of Hunger and Malnutrition. This shows how great visionary was Swami Vivekananda. From Chicago to Calcutta, from coast to coast of all continents, and especially the Ramakrishna missions across the globe, today treasures these memories, which throws light for making this world a better place to live. Saying this, I thank the organizer, Hoymanti Bhattacharya, for providing me this opportunity to speak on the greatest icon of India, Swami Vivekananda. Namaskar.
Namaste, Dr. Ghosh, for the wonderful talk and enlightening about the aspects of Swamiji and the acceptance of everybody. We all must remember the famous Bengali quote where he says that acceptance of Muchi Mathor Tomar Bhai Tomar Rakto. So that is a huge thing to say in the 1800s, when there was still this casteism still prevalent in so many parts of India. And that to say that to accept the most downtrodden, that's something, a huge revolution itself. Our next speaker is, we have Swami Shunishtananda. Pranam Maharaj. It's a video again. We are very blessed to have Swami Shunishtananda ji from Melbourne, Australia, as one of the speakers in this event. Swamiji is a resident monk of the Vedanta Center, Melbourne, since October 2017. He's a monk of the Ramakrishna Order and joined the order in 1991. He served as principal of various higher secondary schools run by Ramakrishna Mission in India and was then posted to Fiji as the manager of Swami Vivekananda College, Nadi, in 2012. He was posted to Vedanta Center of Sydney as its Associate Minister of Religion in 2013 and continued there till he was posted to Vedanta Center of Melbourne in October 2017. Apart from conducting weekly spiritual classes and guided meditation sessions, he's an active participant in seminars, workshops, and interfaith events. Swamiji, please accept our pranam. We are so blessed to have you in this forum and grace this forum.
Yes, I'm starting. It is actually in Melbourne now, almost 3 a.m. So it is impossible to have Swamiji on live here. That's why he sent us the video. So I'm starting that.
Namah Sri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchid Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharini. First of all, I would like to thank Self-Wellness Awareness for inviting me to speak on this webinar session organized to celebrate the birthday of Swami Vivekananda. The topic on which I will be speaking today, that's a very interesting topic. The topic goes, that goes this way. It's the arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached, Nachiketa and Vivekananda. It's a very nice topic indeed, which has been selected for today's discussion by Haimantima. So we know that this is actually a free translation, this line, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. It is a free translation of Swami Vivekananda of one of the passages from Kathopanishad. Uttishtata Jagra Prapya Varan Nivodhata. It's in one of the mantras of the Kathopanishad. So that's what was freely translated by Swami Vivekananda as arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached, which is a very oft-quoted quotation of Swami Vivekananda. So now what's the background where we find Swami Vivekananda is speaking these words? So we'll find that when Swami Vivekananda returned after his first visit from the West, now when on his arrival in Calcutta, now it's a historical record. He was greeted with intense enthusiasm. The horse carriage in which he alighted, the horse was removed. It is the young Bengal, the students of Bengal, the young boys of Bengal, the university students, they started pulling the horse carriage. That's how he was welcomed. So in the reply to the welcome, address of welcome, a few days later after his arrival, a congregation was arranged to welcome him. And in the reply to the address of welcome, we will find that almost at the end of the talk, Swami Vivekananda quoted the famous mantra of the Kathopanishad, which is today's topic, that Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Vara Nivodhata Kshurasya Dhara Nishita Duratyaya Durgam Pathastat Kavayo Vadanti. So here, what's the literal meaning of this mantra of Kathopanishad? That Uttishtata Jagrata, arise, awake. Prapya, the thing which you have to attain, means your goal. The one which you think is your goal, that's the thing which is prapya. So the thing which you think is desired, so that's the goal. Varan nivodhata. So approach the great ones who have already has already traversed this path. Follow them so that you can also learn from them and you can reach the goal. So that's the literal meaning of the first line. But if the second line is as if a warning, that it's not easy. Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya. So the way is not easy. It's like the sharp edge of a razor. The way the sharp edge of the razor, it's almost impossible to walk on it. So the way is as if like that sharp edge of the razor. That's the path. That's what the wise one says. Kavayo vadanti. The wise one says what? That it is kshurasya dhara. It's like the sharp edge of a razor. It is very hard to travel. Durgam pathasta. Duratyaya. It is difficult to cross. But in English, the word difficult is not synonymous with the word impossible. Yes, it is difficult, but it is possible. So that's the idea, that it's a very difficult path. It's not easy. You arise, awake, and follow the great ones so that you can also reach the goal which they have reached. It's not an easy path. It's very difficult. It's very hard to travel, but at the same time, it is possible. So the traditional way of interpreting is that Uttishtata means Sravana. You hear about the spiritual truth from a realized soul, following the parampara, following the tradition. Jagrata speaks of manana. After hearing, there may be a lot of gap in our understanding. There are two ways. Once I have the gap in my understanding, there can be two approaches, two choices. What are the two choices? I may simply reject it as a trash, they have no meaning, or I may be humble enough to accept the fact that it do speak of some very sublime, profound truth to which I cannot relate. With my present fund of experience, with my present fund of knowledge, I cannot relate to it. Why not I try to cogitate upon it, intellectually cogitate upon it? And that's the way gradually the doubts will be cleared off and I will have more and more intellectual conviction. So that's Jagrata. Uttishtata, you hear, and then you cogitate upon it with full humility. This humility to accept that it is the truth, the word spoken by the Rishi, following the spiritual tradition, is truth. That is Shraddha. So this Shraddha has been spoken of in the Kathopanishad at the very beginning. We will come to that. That Shraddha has as if entered into the heart of Nachiketa. And that's why he has that, with that type of Shraddha, with that type of faith. As there is no exact word to translate the word Shraddha, we are saying it's faith. With that type of faith, faith in the word of the Guru, faith in the word of the scriptures, he is trying to cogitate upon it, so that that will result in, when once you get that intellectual conviction, that's not enough. Now you have to lead the life according to your conviction. So you have to meditate on that truth, lead the life according to the truth. That is nididhyasana. That's the thing which has been spoken as nibodhata. So that's already, that path has already been traversed by the realized soul. You follow that path after you get that intellectual conviction. That intellectual conviction will give you the motivation to traverse this path, to take the initiation in this journey. So that's the traditional way of understanding the first line of this sloka, on which we will be restricting our discussion today. This Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata. So arise, that speaks of Sravana, awake, that speaks of Manana, and then with the intellectual conviction you have from that intellectual cogitation, you now start leading the life according to the spiritual truth. So that's the thing which has been spoken of as Shraddha. Now we will find Swami Vivekananda is freely translating this first line as arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. It's a very free translation where we find that the idea of following the path as traversed by the rishis is not highlighted. Just he's saying their goal is quite open. That till your goal is reached, you just don't stop. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. So now we will try to reflect on these words of Swami Vivekananda, which he spoke in his reply to the address of welcome. Now first, let us read the lines which Swami Vivekananda speaks following this statement. After he says that arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached, the lines which follow that we will read out to find out the way Swami Vivekananda interprets the word Shraddha as has been spoken of in our scriptures, in Kathopanishad. So what he's saying, those of you who have studied that most beautiful of all Upanishads, the Katha, will remember how the king was going to make a great sacrifice, and instead of giving away things that were of any worth, he was giving away cows and horses that were not of any use. And the Upanishad says that at that time Shraddha entered into the heart of his son, Nachiketa. I would not translate the word Shraddha to you. That's what Swamiji is saying. It would be a mistake. It is a wonderful word to understand, and much depends on it. We will see how it works. For immediately we find Nachiketa telling himself. Now to interpret the word Shraddha, which comes in Kathopanishad at the very beginning, Swami Vivekananda will be quoting one of the mantras of Kathopanishad, whose translation in the words of Swamiji is, I am superior to many, I am inferior to few, but nowhere I am the last. I can also do something. So here we find the word Shraddha in the scripture speaks of faith in the words of Guru, faith in the words of scriptures, and to follow the path. But what Swamiji is interpreting in the words of Kathopanishad, it's not that he's having just his own freestyle interpretation. He is quoting from the Kathopanishad where Nachiketa says, when Nachiketa was admonished by his father that go to hell, as if he was saying they go to hell. And then what Nachiketa was reflecting within himself, that's the thing which Swamiji is translating as, I am superior to many. Bahunam emi prathamo. I am mediocre as compared to others. Bahunam emi madhyama. But I am never the one who is of no use. I'm just never the last. That's what is implied. So what has Yama to do with me? Why Father is sending me to as if to hell? So that is Shraddha, that I am not worthless. I have within the core of my being that strength is there to manifest all the potentialities which is within me. And this is the boldness. And that is what Swamiji is speaking of. And in the words of Swamiji, and this boldness increased, and the boy wanted to solve the problem which was in his mind, the problem of death. But after death, some says that nothing exists. Some says we do continue to exist. What's the solution behind this mystery? That was his question. With that, he proceeded to Yama. For that, you need a tremendous grit, resolution, strength. And that's what Swamiji is pointing out as Shraddha. The faith in oneself, not only faith in God, not only faith in the words of scriptures. As Swamiji in some other place, very interestingly have told, what is faith? Faith, faith, faith in yourself. Faith in God. And then the next line is very important. If you have faith in all the 33 million gods, and in all the gods which the foreigners have brought in your midst, and still have no faith in yourself, there is no salvation for you. So Swamiji here is stressing the faith in oneself more than faith in the scriptures and faith in the words of Guru. It's not that he's denying that, but first you have to have faith in yourself. Then only it can complement with your faith in the scriptures and faith in the words of the Guru. So we'll come to that discussion gradually. So we will see that Swamiji is quoting from the Kathopanishad a particular mantra to interpret the word Shraddha, which has been spoken of in Kathopanishad, as that I do have some competence. I'm not a worthless. And in India, and in that political situation, that's the interpretation which was needed. So we will see that Swami Vivekananda speaks of another dimension of Shraddha, which means faith in one's own self, in addition to the traditional meaning of Shraddha as faith in scriptures and faith in Guru. And it is this faith in himself that motivated Nachiketa to venture into the realm of death despite being reproached by his father. Now, why Swami Vivekananda interpreted it in a bit different way than traditional way? Now, you will find that Swami Vivekananda found in those days that because of the foreign rule, when India was under the foreign rule, and it was for centuries before the British came, India was still under the foreign rule. It was for about 1,000 years. Because of this foreign rule, we find that the India's culture was invaded. And this cultural invasion, which formerly occurred in the form of colonialization and political domination, it's still continuing. Now it occurs as international trade and industrial development overseas, and which is promoted by a powerful country. And there we find that the cultural invasion is particularly marked in developing countries where certain cultural aspects of the donor country, the country which is contributing, which is the powerful country, it is pervading the culture of the receiver, disregarding the latter's own culture. And the very negative effect of it we will find is the cultural invasion, where we see that the indigenous tribes whose homelands have been seized for economic development, unable to adjust, they become totally dependent, easily exploited, and die from poverty, malnutrition, disease. That's one side. And far more negative implication is the cultural invasion, where we find that wherever this cultural invasion has occurred, it happens at the cost of diversity of the cultural heritage. The diversity is very much required. We don't want uniformity, the diversity, because each and every culture has some positive aspects which has to contribute to the entire global civilization. In the name of uniformity, if all those cultures become extinct, it is we as a human civilization who is going to be the loser. So that diversity is a very important thing. And that is the thing which gets heavily damaged, annihilated, because of this type of cultural invasion, which previously used to happen because of colonialization, of political domination. And in the present day, it happens indirectly through international trade, industrial development overseas. And that's the context in which we find Swami Vivekananda's interpretation is very important. Why? He was a true visionary. Swami Vivekananda was a true visionary. With his prophetic vision, he could see how the hoary culture of an age-old civilization can be eroded by such cultural onslaught. Thus, he quoted the words from perennial scriptures and gave it an interpretation which was most appropriate for his time, for the generations to come. So, realizing the need to rouse the nation from its deep sense of worthlessness, which resulted from infatuation towards the vanities of an invading culture, Swami Vivekananda felt the need to rouse the faith and confidence of the entire nation. And that's why his interpretation of the word Shraddha as faith in oneself, we will find in the following words, the same lecture. We will quote that. What he's saying, unfortunately, it, meaning the Shraddha, has nearly vanished from India. In this British time, because of the cultural invasion, the Indians have started believing that their culture is worthless. The more they can imbibe the Western culture, the more that speaks of their development, of their flourishment. That type of cultural invasion has already happened. And that's why Swamiji is saying, unfortunately, it's because of lack of Shraddha, it has already vanished. The Shraddha has vanished from India. And this is why we are in our present state. What makes the difference between man and man is the difference in this Shraddha and nothing else. What make one man great and another weak and low is this Shraddha. My master used to say, he who thinks himself weak will become weak. And that is true. This Shraddha must enter into you. Whatever of material power you see manifested by the Western races is the outcome of this Shraddha. Because they believe in their muscles, and if you believe in your spirit, how much more work you can get from it. Believe in that innate, infinite soul, the infinite power, which with consensus of opinion, your books and sages preach. And then he's saying that Atman, which nothing can destroy, in it is infinite power, only waiting to be called out. For here is the great difference between all other philosophies and the Indian philosophy. Whether dualistic, qualified, monistic, or monistic, they all firmly believe that everything is in the soul itself. It has only to come out and manifest itself. Therefore, this Shraddha is what I want and what all of us here want. This faith in ourselves, and before you is the great task to get that faith. Give up the awful disease that is creeping into our national blood, that idea of ridiculing everything, that everything we have is of no use. You're ridiculing your own culture, that loss of seriousness. Give that up. Be strong and have this Shraddha, and everything else is bound to follow. And then what is Swamiji saying? Therefore, let me conclude by reminding you once more, arise, awake, and stop not till the desired end is reached. Be not afraid. for all great power throughout the history of humanity has been with the people. From out of their ranks have come all the greatest geniuses of the world, and history can only repeat itself. Be not afraid of anything. You will do marvelous work. The moment you fear, you are nobody. It is fear that is the great cause of misery in the world. It is fear that is the greatest of all superstitions. It is fear that is the cause of our woes, and it is fearlessness that brings heaven even in a moment. Therefore, again he quotes, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. So now we understand that by Shraddha, from where that strength comes to arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached, is being interpreted by Swami Vivekananda as faith in oneself. Now, to understand that Swamiji, whether he's denying the fact that faith in the words of the scriptures in the Guru, no. If we really try to understand the word goal, that stop not till the goal is reached, what Swami Vivekananda means by the word goal, there I will find that we will find that the traditional meaning of the word Shraddha is hidden. Now, according to Swami Vivekananda, in many lectures, you will find what he's saying, that each and every nation represents certain ideals. As long as that ideal is kept intact, the nation thrives. And without it, it loses its vitality. And then Swamiji says, the national ideal of India is spirituality. That's the thing now he stresses. If India has to rise again, it has to do by following its main course. There's a path of spirituality. Hence, all its growth has to be integrated and channelized. He is not denying that we need growth in other aspects also. Science, technology, we need. He is not denying that in the name of spirituality, we shouldn't be going for all this progress. They're all required, but they have to be integrated and channelized through its spiritual culture, which, if can be made functional, will ultimately benefit the entire world. It will give an answer to the present problem of meaninglessness we find in the materialistic civilization, where we can complement materialism with spirituality. And that's what Swamiji is saying, that as our Indian culture has something to contribute to the world, it shouldn't die. It's not just that being an Indian, I should be proud of my culture. It's not the question of pride. Pride, of course, should be there. Along with the pride, there should be a sense of responsibility. I have, as an Indian, it is my foremost duty to preserve this culture through walking my talk. I just simply not profess my culture. I'm proud of my culture. I live that life as per my culture. And that's the thing which can show a way to the world, because the world needs it. In spite of all materialistic growth, the world is in need of spirituality. With all its affluence, it suffers from meaninglessness. And Swami Vivekananda realized that materialistic civilization, with all its pomp and glow on the surface, is absolutely hollow within, which can only be filled up with spirituality. That's why he used to say, I am a socialist, for half a loaf is better than no loaf at all. And with all your social idea of socialism, you can think of a society where all are treated equally, where all gets all the basic necessities of life. But do you think that will make happy? That is just half a loaf. Man cannot have a full life of fulfillment unless he finds some meaning behind the life. So then you have to resort to some spirituality. So all these material things can only feed me half. I am just half fed with that. Once I have that, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, khali pete dharma hoy na. As long as my basic needs is not fulfilled, I cannot think of higher spirituality. So they should be met. I need the material civilization for that, but that is not enough. I have to complement it with spirituality to really find a meaning behind my existence. And if you find that there is a tremendous hunger for spirituality in the West, in the entire world, apparently it may appear to be contrary. The attendance in churches, in religious congregations is becoming marginal. But the fact is that more and more people are losing faith in organized religion. According to Swami Vivekananda, whenever two persons unite to form a religion, they start hating the third person. And that's why we find that in spite of all this prophetic statements, they prophesize of peace. All the organized religion speaks of peace, but ultimately it leads to hatred and violence. So according to Swami Vivekananda, that's the best religion, which gives freedom to each and every individual to pursue his spiritual quest as per his or her beliefs, likings and temperaments. And that's what the world wants today. My liberation in my way, which suits me most. My liberation in my way, which suits me most. It's the idea of ahangraha upasana. I won't elaborate it. The time is not there. So that's the idea, that Ishta upasana, ahangraha upasana. And for this, India has the answer. And that's why Swami Vivekananda wanted that Indian culture should live, for it is yet to play a great role in the next evolutionary leap of mankind. So thus we find out that Swami Vivekananda meant by the word goal, what he meant, that speaks of the traditional interpretation of the word Shraddha. Faith in your perennial culture, in your scriptures, in your guru. That's the goal. But for that, I have to have first faith in myself, that I can, that whenever there is a clash of civilization, there's a cross culture, I shouldn't think that my culture is something to be hidden. I should get more and more acclimatized with the foreign culture, which is advertised as the only culture which can show us prosperity, which can show us evolution. So we shouldn't be piqued by that type of idea. We should have faith that I do represent a culture which do have to contribute in the entire global civilization. So if that means Uttishtata Jagrata, that faith in yourself. And Prapya Vara Nibudhata speaks of the goal, achieving the goal, bringing a gradual holistic transformation to the global culture where materialism and spirituality complement each other. It's not that we have to supplement materialism with spirituality. That's many things nowadays. Nor the so-called orthodox who think spirituality should supplement the materialism. Neither of them. What Swamiji wanted, that materialism and spirituality should complement each other to lead the entire humankind to an enlightened global civilization. And that's what is the need of the day. And that's what Swami Vivekananda is indicating by his famous line, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. So may we all be inspired by the words of Swami Vivekananda, by understanding its true implication. Let us have faith in ourselves. Let us have faith in our own culture, and let us have that grit and resolution in this world of cross-cultural civilization to walk my talk. Not only simply I'm proud of my civilization and make some false assertions. No, not that. I live a life, I walk what I talk. And that becomes an example for the entire world to follow, to show the way of a much more higher evolution. We have evolved as a human being, as a civilization, but our goal is still farther. And we can attain that fulfillment by the vision which Swami Vivekananda has shown us. Let Swami Vivekananda live through us, through our endeavor, through all our attempt, through our sadhana practices to have an enlightenment within and without, abhyudhaya and distressa, is my earnest prayer. And with this, I would like to conclude my discussion today. Thank you all for inviting me once again. Thank you all. Namaskars.
Pranam Maharaj. Thank you so much for your enlightening talk on the topic of Uttishtata, Jagrata, Prapya Vara Nibodhata. I'm sure all of us has benefited a huge amount from that enlightening talk. Swamiji's visions and his talks, for the first time, the Western religion, Western philosophers, Western audience took the Eastern philosophy seriously, and they started to think there's a huge amount of things to delve into. The first time India was looked upon and in a pinnacle, and the Western audience started to take the Indian philosophy much more seriously. Without much delay, I would like to invite our next speaker. We have Professor Abhijit Bandyopadhyay as our next speaker. Professor Bandyopadhyay is an associate professor in the Department of Physics, Ramakrishna Mission, Vivekananda Educational Institution and Research Institute, Belur in Howrah. He did his PhD in particle physics in 2005 from the Shah Institute of Nuclear Physics, Kolkata. He has done his postdoc research from the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, and from the eminent institute at Harishchandra Research Institute, Allahabad. His areas of research are high energy physics, cosmology. Thank you, Professor Bandyopadhyay. Namaskar. And we are so blessed to have you in this seminar, gracing the occasion.
Namaskar. So I offer my humble pranams to the lotus feet of Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada, and Swami Vivekananda. My pranams to revered monks, distinguished speakers, and everybody in the audience. I thank Bhattacharya and the organizers for inviting me in this meeting on this auspicious occasion of Tithi Puja of Swami Vivekananda. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to share some of my thoughts related to science and the phenomenon called Swami Vivekananda. And this thought occurred to me at different points of time while going through complete works of Swamiji or while contemplating on ideas of Swamiji. So I share my thoughts informally with you. So Swami Vivekananda's guru, Sri Ramakrishna's life is basically a unification, a summary of 1,000 years of spiritual experiments and consequent realizations of mankind. And the Guru made his disciple Swamiji an instrument in which he channelized the fruits of his sadhana, his spiritual power, and converted Narendranath Swamiji into a spiritual dynamo so as to bring the illumination in the existing materialistic world. And the spiritual power imparted to Swamiji by his Guru ultimately turned into a voice, and Swamiji became a voice without a form. And today, all of us have access to this powerful voice through Swamiji's words and sayings. Therefore, I can say that Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, voice of Swami Vivekananda is one channel through which this spiritual energy, the power of truth, has been flowing to us today. Okay. Scientifically speaking, universe is just a flow of energy. And Swamiji's voice is a storehouse of spiritual energy. And we know voice is carried by words. And every word is therefore is a packet of energy. However, in our day-to-day basis communication, we use words very casually and often overlook the real power or inherent meaning hidden behind these words. For example, take one simple universal word, the universe. See what the word says. Now, uni means one, and verse means slokas. Slokas are the profound truths expressed in terms of words arranged in a metrical rhythm. So universe is nothing but a rhythmic expression of one truth. Uni in universe expresses oneness, and the verse in universe expresses rhythms. And the Upanishad says, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Badanti. That one truth expressed in diverse ways. And that's the word universe itself. It says nothing but rhythmic expression of one truth. And in Swamiji's words, science is nothing but finding of this unity, this apparently diverse rhythms through these rhythms. Now, the approach of modern Western science takes us to a certain level of realization of this unity. Scientific analysis reveals that the physical universe is described by a finite set of rules, what we call laws of nature. For example, Newton's laws of motion, Einstein's laws of relativity, laws of the quantum world, etc., etc. However, these different laws are applicable at different levels or different realms of the physical worlds. But at any given sphere or any given physical level, all the apparently diverse phenomena can be described by some given law. This aspect is nothing but an expression of oneness manifested in the diverse phenomena at a certain level of physicality. And physical laws of any scale are just unified words of the nature at that scale. And here Swamiji points out the essence of the universe, the oneness manifesting as many, is manifested at every level of every scale of reality. Now, looking from a different angle, science has also revealed today that all matter we see around are composed of some 37 is the number, 37 fundamental elementary particles. They are called by the generic technical names, quarks, leptons, bosons, like electron is one of them. Now, the physical body of the human beings, the animals, the trees, the mountains, the rivers, the innumerable stars and galaxies, all physical matter are composed of this handful number of elementary particles. So this is again the same form of manifestation of unity in diversity. Now let us focus on a very critical issue. The basic approach of science involves explanation of natural phenomena in terms of fundamental entities. To describe or to explain anything scientific, we need a logical framework, and this logical framework stands on the notion of some fundamental entities. For example, fundamental particles, fundamental laws of nature, a geometric point, or even the idea of space, the idea of time, are all the fundamental notions in terms of which things are expressed. Science accepts these fundamental notions as fundamental and builds its own palace on this. And in the paradigm of science, or the so-called Western science, we cannot realize the fundamental entities in terms of something simply because they are fundamental. We have accepted them to be fundamental themselves, meaning that we have accepted them to be cause for every other thing. If we find anything have caused them, those things will take the place of fundamental entities. So we dig the matter, we reach electron. We dig all geometric figures, we get a point. So all these are fundamental entities in terms of which everything is described. And it seems we are hitting a dead end. So where from all these different fundamental entities emerge? Where is the underlying unity in these different fundamental entities which is relevant at different scales in the universe? We realize that our logic has reached its limitation, and logic works only on the basis of some accepted notions, some accepted definitions. And what is the basic of these fundamental entities on which logic is based? So, is there a way to go beyond these fundamental concepts? Is there a place from where all these fundamental notions emerge? Wherein lies their unification? Now here comes Swamiji, and Swamiji says that concentration is the key to knowledge. So let us concentrate on this point. So what is a point at the first place? Well, where from it emerges? What is space and time? Where from it emerges? All these basic ideas which can't really be expressed in words because there are no words more fundamental than them. Now we see that the basic ideas, all this idea of space, idea of time, idea of point, or idea of this an electron, etc., they are all rest definitions. In any theory, in any framework, we have some basic definition using which we construct the theory. And Swamiji's saying points to the common factor of all sorts of definitions. what is the common factor of all definitions. And this common factor is that they are definitions, and concentrate on what is a definition itself, where from the idea of definition emerge. To get the answer, we have to look towards India. In Indian languages, in Sanskrit, even in Bengali, Hindi, the word definition is, the word for definition is Sangha. And in Sanskrit, this Sangha means consciousness. This consciousness, this Sangha, is the common factor of all the Sanghas, the definitions. All Sanghas, all definitions emerge from our consciousness. We have consciously defined and operate with these definitions. The different definitions are just different forms of our consciousness. One singular consciousness. Even the word definition, this Sangha, the consciousness rests on our consciousness. There is nothing beyond, because the concept of nothing and beyond also rests on consciousness only. And this consciousness is the common factor within us, and our definition of we, our definition of I and the mind, everything rests in this consciousness. And we operate from this level. It is like one is the common factor to all the numbers. It is the only factor of itself also. One has no other factor other than one itself. So one is the common factor of many, and it generates the many. See it in a different way. What is two? The simple, profound way of looking at it. Two is just 1 plus 1. It is, so in a sense, 2 is just a overcounting of 1. If we concentrate, when we concentrate on 1, and somehow momentarily, if the concentration breaks down, we find there is no 1, that's 0. And again, suddenly we see the same 1. And the memory carried from the previous episode makes us to think that as if there are 2 1s. We call it 2. So there were never 2 1s. Okay? And the breakdown of our concentration gives us the feeling, the idea of 2. It was always the same singular 1, which has no other alternative. It is called Nirvikalpa. And Sri Ramakrishna attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Swamiji realized this same oneness and became the voice without form. And the first words that carried his message for the West are sisters and brothers of America. These words manifest the all-pervading oneness in every being. With this, I thank you all. I wish you all a very happy New Year. Thank you.
Namaste, Professor Bandyopadhyay. Thank you so much for your enlightening talk on Swamiji and the science. Are there any questions from the audience who may ask Professor Bandyopadhyay or any of the previous speakers? We don't have many of them because they're videos, but if there's anything for Prof. Bandyopadhyay, you can ask in the chat option, or you can also unmute yourself and ask. I read somewhere that when Swamiji gave the talk in Chicago, there were a lot of eminent scientists like I think Lord Kelvin, von Helmholtz, and Tesla. They listened to his talk and they were so enlightened by his talk. Swamiji visited, I think, Tesla's laboratory as well. And is that something?
Yeah, that's true. And because I think Swamiji always spoke from that level of oneness. So, and that's why it touches everybody, whether it is a scientist or a human,
yes,
of any sphere, because somehow everyone, whether in science or in spirituality or in every spheres of life, people are looking for unification, knowingly or unknowingly. Everyone wants to unite. And that is because that unity is in them. It is not outside. Somehow it wants to manifest it in every in his actions. So all the scientists, they say, like earlier in 200 years back, people used to think that electricity and magnetism are two different phenomena. Then a person called Maxwell, he showed us that no, there are different manifestations of the same phenomena called electromagnetism. So science approaches towards this unification. But so since Swamiji has already realized that state and he is speaking from that state, so that touches everyone. So he can pull. He is the magnetic personality who can pull everyone, and because by reaching the core of their heart. So all person, just Tesla or the person you said, whoever came in contact with Swamiji, they feel connected to him in their own way. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Bandhavata.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Professor Bandhavata? From anybody? Or you can ask in the chat window. We can always ask him later on.
We can discuss
We can email
after
him
the
later.
program, all the speakers are done. So Dr. Bandhavata, I was thinking, because we are already running late, so now we're supposed to run the video of Swami Tattvotita
Sure.
from. But what if we just ask Dr. Sunita Burman to speak on
Absolutely, yeah.
live, then we can go for the video.
If Dr. Borman is around, she's there.
I hope she's ready. Dr. Borman, can you unmute and let us know?
Namaskar, Dr. Borman. I've heard Dr. Borman previously as well.
Yes, you can hear.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Borman. Please welcome Dr. Borman in this event. As I mentioned earlier, that Swamiji's vision of Gargis and Maitris being born has been visioned, and Dr. Borman, Dr. Bhattacharya, they're scholars and panditanis in their own right. And she is a MA, MPhil, and PhD in Kavya and modern Sanskrit literature. Presently, she's working in the Vivekananda Mission Mahavidyalaya Haldia as an associate professor, and she holds the charges of head of the Department of Sanskrit. Dr. Burman obtained her MA and MPhil degrees from Jadavpur University and has earned a PhD degree from Sri Chandrasekharan Saraswati Vishwa University. She has made significant contribution to the field of Kavya and modern Sanskrit literature, and has published many research papers in international and national journals, and has authored 4 books. If you follow Facebook, she's quite an eminent poet as well. Her poems got published in various Sanskrit periodicals, and she's a recipient of Uma Shankar Deshpande Award in the 50th All India Conference on Modern Sanskrit. She has attended World Sanskrit conferences and international conferences at Sri Lanka and various other countries like Dhaka, and delivered many keynote speeches and invited talks at national and international conferences. She is also a member of the Asiatic Society, and apart from her academic and research work, she's actively involved in social work of upliftment of downtrodden. Please welcome Dr. Sunita Burman. Namaskar, Dr. Burman.
Please share Hemanti PowerPoint, please.
Yes, Dr. Burman.
Yes, Dr. Burman, let's start.
So, can you share the screen, or you want me to share the screen on behalf of you?
You can hear.
Why
Okay,
don't you share the screen?
Yeah, I will share. No doubt.
You share the screen.
Just give me a few seconds. I will. Can you all share, see the screen now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Congratulations to all. Congratulations to all on Swamiji's birth Tithi today. Pradam Swamiji's. Special thanks to SWA organization for putting this important issue on Swami Vivekananda at international webinar. This is my topic, Swami Vivekananda on Indian civilization and culture. Next slide. Hemanti. Yes. Swami Vivekananda from 1893 to 1902, Swami Vivekananda decided his whole life to the great upward swing of humanity. He was indeed a social reformer. In his dynamism of thought, human excellence should assert his birthright to be a man. The central themes of these inspiring speeches of the whole world was man, his growth, development, and the fulfillment. In this paper, it attempts to draw out Swami Vivekananda's true thoughts and discussion on Indian civilization and culture, its contribution to world. We think those who bring revolution in men's spiritual and moral life concerned themselves with only religious and moral questions and do not care for the problems of civilization and culture, which belong to the material world. Swami Vivekananda is one of these few spiritual leaders of modern India who have tossed open the diverse facts of Indian civilization, ranking from culture, society, science, spirituality, politics, religions, etc. Right from the origin of the Indian culture to our present time, according to Vivekananda, religion is at the central of Indian life, and we do not normally mention religions as a form of civilizations. We would rather call it a culture. In Bengali, by civilization we you mean Shobhata, while to mean culture, the final achievement of our mind. We use the word Samskriti. When Vivekananda meets Ramakrishna for the first time in November 1881, he was only 18 years and 9 months of ago or long. Ramakrishna found in him an extraordinary gifted young man. In the 6 year and 9 month between the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna on 16 August 1886 and this departure for the United States on 30 Min 1893, Vivekananda traveled extraordinary throughout India, meeting all kinds of people, sadhus, beggars, scholars, princes, and during this period, read widely on Indian literature. history and philosophy. 4. The emergence of the Ramakrishna order, a community of sannyasi dedicated to the idea of service to the country. After the establishment of the Bagbazar Moth towards the end of 1886, created in him a new hope about spiritual and moral awakening in Bengal. All this gave him his idea of living spiritual and moral tradition, beginning with the Vedic rishis developed by the Upanishad series, the quintessence of their wisdom presented in the Bhagavad Gita, and brought to the imagination of the people by the two great epic and Purans. Their philosophy interpreted by the great commentary like Shankara and Ramanuj. Vivekananda saw the whole of this great traditional as a unity of spiritual and moral culture without losing sight of its variety. It was this sense of the living, religious traditional of the Indian capable of renovating itself for a spiritual growing people, which gave Vivekananda his idea of Indian civilization and culture. Vivekananda spoke of religion as the essence of Indian culture. It may appear that he did not give any values to the other aspect of our civilization. Actually, Vivekananda did values the art and literature of our country as very important features of Indian civilization and culture. Number 5. Swami Vivekananda and Indian Renaissance. That's okay. Swami Vivekananda is in fact the first true Indian Renaissance man. He spoke more of our philosophy and religions because to the present Vedantism as the essence of that religions and philosophy to the modern world. What it takes of baffling magnitude. He was required to seize that essence through a careful study of a vast corpus of philosophical literature, the Vedas and the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the sixth system of our philosophy, the Purans, the great commentaries of the Vedanta philosophy like Shankara and Ramanuja. The medieval mystic like Kavi, Nanak, Chaitanya, and finally the life and teaching of this great master, Sri Ramakrishna, and he was required to present the kernel of this vast literature to the modern world. And this made it important for him to keep in mind the influence of Western philosophy and science on those whom he addressed at home, abroad. Naturally, he had little time to spare for consideration of Indian art and our secular literature, but he was deeply interested in both and let us remember that his very publication was book on Bengali music. Vivekananda himself was a very fine musician, a literary artist showing a rare mastery of the English language, and he was pioneer of colloquial style in Bengali prose, and for this he won the unreserved appreciation of the Rabindranath Tagore. He composed beautiful verses both in Bengali and English. Vivekananda could not, therefore, be be indifferent to Indian literature and art. Actually, he was eloquent about our achievement in both. Next slide. Swami Vivekananda view on ancient Indian science. Swami Vivekananda views on ancient Indian science. The brilliance of Swami Vivekananda's intellect becomes particular event in this musing on the traditional science of India and the direction which he wanted scientific inquiry in India to take in order to achieve national progress. A striking example of this far-reaching important impact on the scientific commentary in India is the short encounter he had with Sri Jamsetji and Tata during his second voyage to the West. The patriot of individual revolution in modern India was impressed by Swamiji's impassioned plea for the need of an institute for advanced scientific research in India, which is at par with international standards. Next slide. Vivekananda's views on the Islamic conquest of India. Swami Vivekananda is often quoted to have said that India needed a Vedantic mind and an Islamic body. This is often quoted by the secular intellectual to claim that Swami Vivekananda belonged to their camp of Sarva Dharma Samannaya. Next slide. Vivekananda's views on world civilization. Swami Vivekananda was new observer of the rise and fall of ancient civilization. His sense of intense identification with the past of India did not blind him to the strength and weakness of other great civilizations. Next slide. Swami Vivekananda's influence on the freedom struggle. Very important. Swami Vivekananda was fiery advocate of freedom of the individual, the social, the spiritual. Swamiji often emphasized that freedom is that first conditions for growth. When the Maharaja of Khetri asked him, "What is life?" Swamiji famously replied, "Life is a struggle against circumstances which are trying pass up down." It is no wonder that Swami Vivekananda became the rallying point for Indian nationalized and freedom fighters. Tilak wrote, "Swami Vivekananda is the real father of Indian nationalized. Every India is proud of this father of modern India." Next slide. Vivekananda's views on world civilization. Swami Vivekananda was no observer of the rise and fall of ancient civilization. His sense of intense identification with the past of India did not blind him to the strength and weakness of other great civilizations. Conclusion, last. Swami Vivekananda's life and work in an important turning point in the history of Indian civilization and culture. It is in the fact a paradigm shift marking an epical change from Western modernity to the India classicism. Through him, the ancient ideas and core values of our civilization and culture stand revived in modern time. To put it in this own words, Swamiji's condensed India and his profound idea on various facts of Indian civilization are waiting to the expressed in the current of our national life. Next slide. Thank you. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pasyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. They ended by thanking everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barman. That was a very, very nice talk, as touching on many, many aspects of Swamiji's life. I'm sure we would love to hear you more if we had much more time. So we touched many, many aspects. That was absolutely wonderful. About the patriotic Swamiji's influence on the Indian independence, which you mentioned, I would wish we would have learned more about it. Where the Swamiji says that, you know, like for the next 50 years, all the snobs, let all the gods sleep, and let Mother India, let all the vain gods disappear for the time of our minds. This is the only God that is awake, our own race. All of the gods are sleeping. What vain God shall we go after, and yet cannot worship the God that we see all around us, the Virat? The first gods we have to worship are our countrymen. Asking for sacrifice of a cause of the motherland, Swamiji said, wouldst thou attain thy mean of thy disgraceful cowardice, that freedom deserved only by the brave and the heroic, forget not that thou art born as a sacrifice to the mother's altar. Forget not that thy social order is but the reflex of the infinite universal motherhood. So that's thank you so much, Dr. Barman. Thank you for your talk, which touched many, many aspects of Swamiji's life. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I like to add, like, she had a talk on Swamiji for the World Conference of Sanskrit World Conference from Australia. So yeah, she is like already working on Swamiji so much. We are really grateful for you to join here.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Barman. We are honored to have our next speaker, who is Mr. Rupam Datto. He's a guest speaker in this event. He's an alumni of the Institute of Advanced Management, Kolkata. Started his career in 1994. He learning continued as he attended General Managers Program from the Cornell University in USA in 2015. He has a rich experience of 28 years as a hotelier, out of which 14 years as general manager with big brands like Sarovar Hotels and Radha Hotels, and presently the general manager of the Radisson Blu Bangalore. From opening new hotels to coaching and mentoring several young hoteliers and inspiring hospitality students, he has been into all. He is a travel enthusiast and has made excellent memoirs by covering a large part of Europe, Asia, Scandinavian countries, and the USA. His interests and passion include networking with people who are making difference, social media, and his daily post about his profession and spreading positivity, and takes a huge interest in learning a new skill every day. That's something which is absolutely great feat. Mr. Datto, thank you so much and welcome to this forum. Namaskar.
Thank you so much. Whichever part of world you are all in, greetings from India, Bangalore. Today is a very special day, and I wanted to thank Hoimanti for inviting me on this auspicious day of the Janma Tithi of Swamiji, and a very even more special because the first time on an webinar which I'm attending, where my son is present and also my wife is present. They are being and a very, very close friend of mine, Omlan, who is also present in this seminar. So it makes all the more valuable for me. I'm listening to all of you. I wanted to thank everyone, all the viewers for being here and listening to this. I think we all been together spending one of the best time globally. Many people are doing a lot of things good. They're keeping themselves engaged with their work. And all of us are today listening to some wonderful talks and speeches by such eminent personalities. I think I'm blessed for that. Starting this from the cue that I've taken today from Swami Sunisthananda's speech, that he was talking about Shraddha, which is respect. That one thing every human, as a human, I feel that respect is your identity. I personally believe that I work as a hotelier, and the job that I have is completely different than the field of many others who are present here, and probably one of those odd. But why I count myself to be very, very, I'm extremely blessed to be in my industry is that I work with a workforce which starts from janitor to the white collar executives, So I handle around 400 plus employees who are working under me, and each of them come with different hopes of their life. They post their faith on us that we are working for them, and makes me feel more responsible. So respect is something that's the first sign. I always feel that the first sign of care. If you really care for somebody, the first attention that you give is that pay respect to them. That's the first sign of a care. And respect is eventually giving birth to love. So if we say that we love somebody, it has to be coming in the way of how we respect you in every possible manner. Your views, your opinions, your thoughts, that's where the respect comes for every individual. I'm taking all of this that comes, what we have learned from Swami Vivekananda throughout his journey, and what he has spoken to the universe and given messages that, how a human should be taking their life in their hand. So after this Shraddha, which was respect, Swami Sunisthananda ji has shared about spirituality. Many people misunderstand. I tell that to my team, that many people misunderstand spirituality with religious connect. Spirituality is nothing but you connect with the human spirit first. When you connect with human spirit, that's where your spirituality starts. If you do not value human and their spirit, then we are not walking in the path of spirituality. And eventually, to be successful in our life, you have to take the route of the spirituality. Religion is nothing but different routes to a destination. You can come from any religious belief, faith that we all have. I believe this is how I explain to myself. This is how I explain to people around me, people who work with me, that every religion has got their way of moving towards a single destination. So it's like you go to a place, there are three routes. So one decides which routes to be taken. So that is how the religions are, religious beliefs and faiths are created, that each individual feels that this is my route, and it makes me a little easier. I find this in my route. If you really have to value, each of these routes has their own values. So that's my personal faith and my personal belief on religion thoughts. So these are the two things. Coming back to my, since it is work, so I always look at, I will take words that was shared and that was taught to us by Swami Vivekananda. Was relationships are more important than life, but it is important to have life in it. So when I start working, the first thing that happens is the people around me. I start my day with prayer. Then I look at myself in the mirror when I get up, and I look at the mirror and I smile at myself, because the first thing that you need to do is that touch and pray to God that you have a wonderful day for everybody. And then you love yourself, because if you are to really, really feel God, you need to feel yourself that you are there today to take those thoughts, your education, your learning to your daily routine. So I smile at myself every morning looking at the mirror. That's my rituals that I do. After praying, getting up from the bed, I go to pray, then come to the washroom, look at the mirror and smile at myself and say good morning to myself. So that's how I start my day. You set your day with these thoughts, and that takes me and that sets the stage for my day. Coming back, I question to myself that who are our audience? There are educations given to a large section of people. There are not so much education to a larger section of people. So it's our responsibility to reach out to that huge workforce, people who are deprived of not being so much educated. Since I work with a huge workforce, it's like a pyramid. You at the base, you have people who are in large workforce. They don't come from really very well educated background. But as you go on top, but the people who are actually delivering the highest amount of most valuable work are the one which is at the bottom of that pyramid. So when I meet my leadership team, my question is that whatever we think, whatever we do in our boardroom, in our strategy meetings, are we taking it down? Are we reaching out to them? What is the use of discussing any strategies if those thoughts are not going at the bottom of the pyramid? So all of us are actually what we our thoughts are the one that is actually driving us. I'm quoting another quote from Swamiji, that is, we are what our thoughts have made us. So take care of what we think, and what's our secondary thoughts leave, they travel far. So before you could even make a commitment to yourself, first thing is that what's running in your mind? What have you thought? What have you thought for your work? What have you thought for your life? What have you thought for your day? So if you can really, if we can all think of those thoughts, put them together and see that those thoughts are reaching at the bottom of the pyramid, it's all there. I have situations where I have everyday interns coming up to my hotel, plenty. After the COVID, we have gone through a huge setback. The industry was shut globally. Many places were not operating. People have lost their jobs. People lost a lot of good close friends, relatives, people close to them. So for us, coming back more than business, me as a general manager of hotel, the biggest responsibility was to bring them back to work, bring them back to life before even I could think of doing business. Can I come back and say that, please come back, the life is safe, we are again running and making our journey together. So that was one of those things that I have experienced in the last 2 years time. And every time, whatever has happened, that one thing has kept us going, that believe on whatever we have learned, believe on those thoughts that we all have run in our mind during the last 2 years, whatever we have learned. So my recent meetings with those interns was all about, do we all know why we are starting hotels? Was it only a reason that you want to make money? Was it only a reason that you want to go abroad? Was it only a reason that you want to join a cruise line? Or you just love to serve people and that's how you're here? So any profession that we take in this world, the first thing that comes is that, are you willing to be serving people? Serving people is our responsibility. So I want to meet those young kids who are just coming out of their home and starting their career. That's their first experience in the hotel. They're seeing a hotel for the first time. They're seeing a kitchen for the first time. They're seeing the equipment, the engineering department for the first time. They're seeing a washing area for the first time. They're seeing a guest room for the first time. They're seeing a restaurant for the first time. Now, do I treat them like another workforce, a labor, a slave, or do I take them as an assets that are joining our industry? So when I made them, I wanted to reach out to them saying that, what's running in you? What is that role model that you have identified for yourself? Who are you following? So why we all need to follow certain certain belief, faith, and thoughts is shaping us. Our thought is shaping us. Without having a mentor, without having someone who is guiding you to your journey, it's incomplete. You do not know which direction you are going. So I wanted to make them feel that, have a purpose for your internship, that 6 months, what you learn is going to be living with you forever throughout your life. So that was my way of spirituality. That was my way of connecting with those people. That is my way of telling them that you start counting that what is your value, what is the value you are going to add every day. I had to tell them that what you do when nobody is watching you is making you. We all can work very, very good when supervisors are there. We all can show ourselves that we are doing excellent work when we have been observed by a lot of people. But the actual value is that when you start working without anybody observing you, that sincerity is shaping your future. So we cannot cheat ourselves. We are responsible for our future. We do not want to make an individual out of me who tomorrow, when he's becoming a manager or a leader, is not able to share a story that he himself has not followed. So that was my message to those young kids who's starting their career. Now, coming back to my way of working is again taken from all of you who have spoken today. If you see that involve and engage is my way of working. I'm not a manager who is autocratic. I'm not a manager who gets into a boardroom and say that this is what is my directions. You just have to follow this. It is never happens. Probably I have created a culture where I listen to people more than I speak. I allow everyone to share what is their thought of a certain phase, of a certain month, of a certain week. How do they? I just create a scenario that this is what is going to come on your way, and tell me now how you're going to do that. So involving and connecting with everyone, because if a large section of people is not part of your thought process, then that thought process can never go anywhere else. Swamiji was never talking to himself. He was meeting, he was traveling, and he was reaching out to a huge audience to share that this is what is our journey, and this is what is the human philosophy. And he wanted everyone to adapt to that. He wanted everyone to carry that in your daily life. It was not to keep that what you learn. If you are educating yourself, spread that. What we learn, what we educate ourselves is proven through what we do with them. So this is how I look at Swamiji in my life, a very small way. I was a bit nervous when as Hemanti was connecting with me on this. I said, Hemanti, what do I talk? When this seminar is for me to listen to so many eminent people. So I'm not too sure that if I'm able to give some of my message with a little speech that I've given, but I hope that you will find something that can be used in your daily work, and that makes a wonderful life for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Datta. Namaskar. That was a very, very good talk, because most of the time we hear about Swamiji, what Swamiji has done and what we should do, but you gave a very, very practical ideas about what you have done, how you have imbibed Swamiji in yourself, and how you transfer to your team. And I'm sure you're a very, very good life coach, because I really hope you come and give a talk to NHS workers here in the UK, the health sector, which is really suffering, who needs some enthusiastic person like you, and which you have imbibed all the philosophies of Swamiji by treating each soul as potentially divine and treating them with respect, listening to them, and giving them the right information. Thank you so much. We have the next speaker. Our next speaker is Hoymunti. Hoymunti is to introduce Hoymunti, well, she is a true, what should I say? She does so many things. I really wonder how she manages doing so many things. In one, she has got 2 small children. She has a family, and she manages everything on her own. So, of course, she gets all the support from her husband, but that's different. So to introduce her, she's a Master of Arts in Sanskrit with specialization in Vedic studies from Jadavpur University, India, and certified in mindfulness from the University of Toronto. She is founder of the Self-Wellness Awareness, the SWA organization, which is organizing this webinar. Her organization offers opportunities to learn and practice mindfulness and a non-dual lifestyle through the teaching of ancient scriptures like Vedanta, Gita, and most importantly, non-dualistic views to transform one life into blissful and purposeful, crystal shiny living. She has translated and published the manuscript of Sadvani Gitika, which is teachings of Sri Sri Ma Anandamayima, written by Swami Omkarananda Giriji. Haimanti is an independent researcher on spirituality, mind, and consciousness in Vedanta. She used to work with Sanskrit Sahitya Parishad in Kolkata and was a former project fellow to publish the Dictionary of Sanskrit to English technical terms of mathematics, and worked initially with the project of Sanskrit to English technical terms of ancient architecture. Please welcome Haimanti Bhattacharya. There are lots of I can say about her, but I think I'll stop here.
Yes, thank you, Dada. And as you said, like I do a lot of things. I think, no, I don't. What I believe, it is all the blessings of Matri Shakti and the Thakur and Ramakrishna that we had a few months back about the three mothers, the webinar. So I believe on them, and I think this is their wish, and maybe they are using me to do that. So there is nothing from my side. I'm doing nothing, really. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. And my pranam to Swami Shunishtanandaji, and my pranam to Swami Tattotitanandaji from Fiji. We have his speech. We will run it at the end of our event. So, and my respect and gratitude and pranam to all the speakers. I'm really grateful that you took your time to join and speak on Swamiji and your wisdom and your thoughts, and you shared that with us. So today I thought, and I choose a subject I just named like it Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda's influence on Netaji's spiritual awareness. So Swamiji and Netaji, I think these two names, they don't need any formal introduction though. Still, to begin, I like to share that in 1863, January 12th, India or Bharatvarsha got a patriot as well as a monk, a philosopher, a spiritual leader that India didn't see before, Swami Vivekananda. There is another name in the history of India's freedom struggle, which is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Today, we are celebrating Swamiji's birth anniversary. Also, it is Swamiji's Janma Tithi. And Netaji's birth anniversary is coming on January 23rd. So I thought to share some relationships between Swamiji and Netaji. If Swamiji wouldn't be there at that time, we might have not gotten freedom from the British, or might have lost our faith in Hindu Dharma. And after Swamiji, under the influence of his philosophy, Netaji vowed to make the country independent. I don't think there is any need to give a formal introduction to Netaji as well. He was Swamiji's Manas Putra. In Bengali, it is called Manas Putra. I don't know it's the actual translation in English. I just tried like a spiritual son who turned Swamiji's thought into action. Swamiji was a true patriot. We all know that. And the core of Swamiji's patriotism was in the renunciation and love, affection towards the mankind. A spiritual love towards all the Indians, irrespective of castes and religion. And he realized the ultimate greatness, that is Shiva, in the miserable, poor, wretched Indians. So what is Swamiji used to say that the mantra Shivoham Shivoham. So we all inside, we all are Shiva. So we always said that also his quote that is very popular in all of us, that Shiva Gyane Jiva Sheva, worship Shiva through the act of service to human. Netaji has mentioned in his book that he was particularly inspired by Swamiji's philosophy of practical Vedanta, which is serving the poor, the needy, and the afflicted as a means of worshipping the divinity in them. So it is like Atmana Mokshartham Jagat Hitayacha, the center of Swami Vivekananda's philosophy. This means for the salvation of our individual self and for the well-being of all on the earth. I also like to share from the book named Joyotu Netaji. It is written in Bengali, written by Mohitlal Mojumdar. He said, he said there that if we do not realize Swami Vivekananda, we can't realize Netaji. Besides, if we don't know Netaji, we may not, rather, we cannot understand Swamiji's philosophy. This is why I found it is really not irrelevant to talk about Netaji's spirituality while we are celebrating Swami Vivekananda. They are just like both sides of the same coin. According to Netaji, Swamiji's unique greatness was in harmonizing East and West, religion and science, past and present. It was only Swami Vivekananda who preached the idea of complete freedom, inner and external. It is quite evident from the Indian Pilgrim, the unfinished autobiography of Netaji, as well as other biographies of Netaji, that he was inspired by Swami Vivekananda after he happened to read the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. That time Netaji was 12 years old when he became very close to his principal Beni Madhav Das, and he guided Netaji in many ways to build his character, ethics of life, and how to be connected with nature, the way of meditation. And with his guidance, initially, Netaji used to meditate. But here I also like to mention that Netaji always had a habit to meditate from his very childhood. It got more nourished maybe with the principal's guide. But slowly he started feeling, Netaji, here I'm talking about, that slowly he started feeling lost in a quest for a center principle of life. Netaji said that he was looking for an answer which could help him to build his life. But he was not satisfied enough. Then he found the complete works of Swami Vivekananda and from one of his relatives' library, and this was his turning point toward a deep spiritual realization. Here, I will go back to Netaji's childhood again. What we found that Netaji got to know about Swamiji when he was about 15 years old. But the seed of his spiritual awareness was planted in his early childhood. How? Because Netaji was very young, only 5 years old when Swamiji left his mortal body. It was Prabhavati Devi, Netaji's mother, who was a deep spiritual personality and dedicated reader of Gospel of Ramakrishna or Kathamrita, from where Netaji was introduced to Sri Sri Ramakrishna and his teachings. So we can see here what we called sanskar. or Sanskar in Bengali, it was there from the beginning of his life, and later it got nourished by Swami Vivekananda's philosophy. Young Netaji wrote 9 letters to his mother, which are very strong evidence of his deep realization about Ramakrishna and his teachings. The background was like that every year, Netaji, along with his family, used to visit their ancestral house in Kodalia, it is in West Bengal, for celebrating Durga Puja, because they used to live in Cuttack, and during this Durga Puja time, they used to come to Kodalia to celebrate Durga Puja. But during the year of 1912, because of his entrance exam, he stayed back at home in Cuttack, and his mother went to Kodalia. He was very close and affectionate son to his mother. He was maybe missing his mother at that time, so he started writing a few letters to his mother. Those 9 letters could have had a perfect reflection of his spiritual mind and thinking. Let me share a few lines from his letters. He wrote like, "Goal of life is to realize God. Like the destination of all rivers is the sea, the destination of our life is God. If you couldn't realize the ultimate or the self, true self, the consciousness, if there is no vision for God, then our life becomes purposeless." These are few lines from those letters that he wrote to his mother. And see, this deep realization came to Netaji when he was only 15 years old. And it was, we can see, it is the perfect reflection of Kathamrita and Vivekananda's work. Later, he wrote in his autobiography, that is unfinished work by Netaji. I'm quoting from there. Quote, "From Vivekananda, I turned gradually to his master Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Vivekananda had made speeches, written letters, and published books which were available to the layman. But Ramakrishna, who was almost an illiterate man, had done nothing of the kind. He had lived his life and had left it to others to explain it. Nevertheless, there were books or diaries published by his disciples which gave the essence of his teachings. There was nothing new in his teaching, which is as old as Indian civilization itself. The Upanishads, having taught thousands of years ago that through abandonment of worldly desires alone can immortal life be attained. The effectiveness of Ramakrishna's appeal lay, however, in the fact that he had practiced what he preached and that he had reached the acme of spiritual progress." Unquote. Now, I will conclude today by reading 2 quotes from both Netaji and Swamiji. In Netaji's word, again, quote, "How shall I express in words my indebtedness to Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda? It is under their sacred influence that my life got first awakened. If Swamiji had been alive, I would have been at his feet." Unquote. And before Swamiji left his body, he said, quote, "If there were another Vivekananda, he would have understood what Vivekananda has done. And yet, How many Vivekanandas shall be born in time? Unquote. I think maybe this was the indication of Subhash Chandra's arrival. Pranam. Thank you.
Thank you, Heymanti, for the wonderful talk. You mentioned about Swamiji's influence on Netaji. It was interesting to see that how the INA, there was such a uniformity. Probably those are the principles. There was a huge, the unity of the Hindus and the Muslims. There was no separate kitchen or anything. There was so much unity. So that's something to be learned. So probably that's one of the things which Swamiji imbibed in the influence Netaji as well. It comes to me very interestingly, looking at the freedom struggle, that, when in one of the stories of Mahabharata, there's something called the Barbaric. The Barbaric was a character who was, I think he was the grandson of Bhim, son of Ghatotkacha. And the story goes like, if he will fight for the side who is losing, so he will switch sides all the time. If this side is losing, so that means the battle will never end, because he will keep on, and he was a great fighter. So in the beginning of the battle, I think he was slayed, and but his only wish was he wanted to see the Mahabharata Yudh. So his head was placed on a pedestal, and he watched all of it, the whole Mahabharata Yudh, the Kurukshetra Yudh. So in the end, the Pandavas went and asked him that, who do you think is the greatest warrior in this battle? And Barbaric said, nobody fought. It was only Lord Krishna. He was only fighting. There was nobody else. So Swamiji influenced all the freedom fighters. So he left the body much, much before the freedom struggle went through. It was through the body of Nivedita, through the body of, through Tilak, through the body of Aurobindo and all the other freedom fighters. He has influenced the whole generation, and he has helped us attain what we got through. So that's something, a very interesting thought. I think that is
also what, like when I was reading about, like I mentioned the book Jayatu Netaji, it was such a nice work, and I realized that he was explaining so nice way that first Vivekananda wanted to build the spiritual mind, because when we are like the all freedom fighters, when they went for the fighting against the British, they knew that it is obvious they will lose their life, right? So that realization, my Atma is immortal, that is the building, that's the base of our all the freedom fighters when they fought against the British. So I think that's why Swamiji built the spiritual background to force them to against.
And I think it's influencing us yet to now, like Rupam mentioned, that how he influences his team. So it's through his body, his Swamiji is living and influencing and giving us the message. But of course, we should not forget and keep on that spirituality is the core of India, and we should not give up that. So we should of course imbibe the Western things, but spirituality should be the core and basics of Indian things. So without much delay, I would introduce Swami Tattva is the next speaker. Heymanti?
Yes, so before we introduce Swamiji, I just like to announce that Dr. Gautam Ghosh, he is here. I think, Dr. Ghosh, are you here?
Yes, Aminti, I'm here.
So you can share that you wanted to, then we can be.
No, let this program go on. I will come at the last.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Thank you, Pranam. We are blessed to have Swami Tattva from Ramakrishna Mission Nodi, South Pacific, Fiji. We have a huge program today, so Swamiji has very kindly sent his video recording today, despite his busy schedule, to organize everything in Fiji. And those we work in abroad, and we know that in the Ramakrishna Mats and within the centers outside, the monks have to do everything from managing the altar to the kitchen to everything, actually. So, and there are very few helping hands, and from spirituality to managing the kitchen to the altar, they have to do it all. So Swamiji has taken his very, very precious time and given this video to us. He joined the Ramakrishna order in the 2000 Belur Mutt and received Diksha from revered Swami Ranganathanandaji Maharaj, and was first sent to Chandigarh in 2001 and stayed at Belur Mutt Training Center from 2004 to 2006. He got the Brahmacharya Dikkhas from Srimad Swami Gahananandaji Maharaj, and in 2006 he was posted to New Delhi Ramakrishna Mission. He received his sannyas from Srimad Swami Atmasanandaji Maharaj in 2010, and up to 2013 he was in New Delhi, and then he was sent to Gold Park Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, where he stayed until 2022, when he was posted to the Ramakrishna Mission Nadi in South Pacific, where Swami Shonishtanandaji was previously, who has recently relocated to Melbourne. So please welcome Swami Tattanandaji. Please accept a pranam, Swamiji.
Om Partatte Shadalin Ram Krishna Shamagaya Yo Dharmastha Panarat Vireshang Tang Namamyaham. I would like to congratulate and gratitude to Haimanti Bhattacharya and her foundation Self-Wellness Awareness. I pay my respectful pranam to revered Swami Shonishtanandaji Maharaj of Vedanta Society of Melbourne and other dignitaries coming to the platform. It is very much pleasant to inform you that we are going to discuss about the Hinduism, the eternal religion. It is the discovery of the thousands years past rishis, who is the scientist of spiritual practices. The Hinduism, the eternal religion, ancient, its aspects so varied and subtle with profound implications. Its mythology, symbology, ritual, and organizing of ethical principles and high spiritual sentiments so extensive. The nature of Hinduism is not a myth or faith only, but it is a tattva or satya, the investigated, reliable, ultimate reality or truth, and its practical application in life, that is the dharma. That is, Hinduism is philosophy, religion, and ethics, satya and dharma combined. It is not only the myths, not only the ritual, not only the Catholicity, but there is the philosophy behind who leads the religion, discovered by the Vedic rishis, the spiritual scientist. Essentially, it is a religion of man, for it is based on ultimate divine nature of man, not on dogmas and creeds, and it applicable to whole mankind. We know the Hinduism is not like the other ism, but there is something special who can inculcate all the truths, all the spiritual treasure has been achieved by the rishis. We know we are having so many the scriptures sometimes the questions arise, what is the scriptures of Hinduism? We know the hundreds of scriptures are there in Hinduism, but the primal scriptures are 4 Vedas, the essence of all spirituality, led by the rishis for thousands of years. We know that we are having 4 Vedas, Rig, Sham, Yoju, Atharva. The 3 foundational texts of Vedanta are there, that called the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, the Bhagavad Gita. Upanishads, that is the path of Vedas, mainly discussed of knowledge, how to achieve the knowledge. The Brahma Sutra, that is the highest philosophy of Hindu scriptures. And the Bhagavad Gita, other one that is spoke by Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, in Kurukshetra, in front of the battlefield. Sri Krishna delivered that highest philosophy in life, how it can be. That is Bhagavad Gita. Rather than we are having 64 Puranas, they are having so many myths and the teachings of many figures who have achieved the truth through their spiritual practices. We can see in the Purana so many myths about the deities, how it can be achieved, their grace. Other than 6 Vedanga, limbs of Vedas, before we studied the Vedas, the Vedanga is the way to practice, and it leads to, or it helps to read the Vedas, the main text. There are Shiksha, Kalpa, Nirukta, Chanda, Vyakaran and Jyotish. The all text of Hinduism has been separated by 2 names, Shruti and Smriti. Shruti, it is the spiritual thoughts, high philosophy, how to realize the Brahman, how we can achieve the truth. All the rishis have been discussed to his disciples. In various ways, the Brahma has been explained in Shruti. And Smriti, that is the Puranas. How the society, how the daily life will be led by the Hindus, or how they can live their life and ultimately they can achieve the God. That is explained in Smriti. Over that, they are having 64 tantras and 6 Upavedas are there. It is to explain so many ways it can be explained. But we will focus on the real practices. The Hinduism always focused on real practices, or the dogma or the philosophy are there that is to be practiced in our life. The Sattva, the Shruti, the truth, that ultimate spiritual truth or reality, that is the Brahman or Atman, that is all pervading, all powerful. Shruti says that we have to achieve that Brahman. But how we can achieve with our limit power? We can remove our ignorance. If we can remove that ignorance, that avidya, then Sattva, the reality, will reveal itself before us. Then man can know the truths that he is Brahma itself, none other. Dharma, that applied truth, that is Smriti. A sense of worldly brotherhood must be inculcated instead of religio-sectarians, socio-economic or political brotherhoods which results in aggressive attacks against the other. Another really brotherhood and then brotherhoods. Brotherhood should be superimposed. Swami Vivekananda has stated, by universal selfhood, not universal brotherhood, but universal selfhood must be our motto. Coming to that principles, Hinduism is based under investigations, reflections, reasoning, meditations and spiritual realization of a whole people of a vast country with penetrating minds for over 8,000 years. It is hospitable to all. It keeps its door open to all criticism and seeks to benefit by it and tries to improve itself. It is always ready to absorb noble thoughts from everywhere. It sees unity in diversity and does not keep to create a dead, dull uniformity. It encourages rich external diversity within the framework of central spiritual unity. It is a growing tradition, like science, not a closed system. Its principles, concepts, structures, and goals are entirely different from those of other founded religions. God in Hinduism is not a hypothetical, almighty, extra cosmic being in heaven, but inner self of all beings and entities. Undoubtedly, the experienced by all within themselves. Hence, Hinduism is not theocentric in the usual sense, but Atma-centric. Just as astronomy has shifted the geocentric theories to the heliocentric ones, Hinduism has shifted the locus of religion from God to man and to his divine self within. It declares that the source of religion is within man and religion is not something to be filled in from outside, but it is inner development and outward expression and a life of the potential divinity within. Although we are not having that much time to discuss about the whole Hinduism, but consideration of that, we can think about some essence of Hinduism. That is, something cannot come out nothing. Hence, there is an absolute reality as the ground source of the universe, which is a totality of indefinable, ever-changing, conditioned phenomena, that Jagat. We know the universe is the symbiosis of time, space, and causation, which are the framework of the universe, are expected of and applicable to the phenomenon only. They are the products of Maya, the creative principle of relativity, which is the innate for Brahman. Brahman or Ishvara is the imperishable reality and phenomenally the inner controller, the inherent great truth and universal law which uploads the changing universe, being its source. The dynamic universe is divine, holy, and one integral whole, that is Purna. The soul, the Jiva, are divine. Only the difference between Jiva and the Ishvara, that is the ignorance, avidya, that does not allow us to realize that I am He, I am the Brahman. Otherwise, there is no difference between Jiva and Ishvara. Avatara, the incarnations, is the persons of that divinity. That divinity, or that all-powerful or pervading soul, takes body to help the creations to realize themselves as a God, as they can achieve their ultimate reality. The jivas, when embodied, are subject to the law of karma, work. None other is out of that. Karma and its fruits affects everyone. The jivas have unlimited opportunities for attaining perfection, that is, manifestations of other innate divinity. There are so many paths are there how they can realize their inner divinity. That can be through the spiritual practices or selfless work or the devotions or the practices of yoga or knowledge. So, ultimate truth is to realize God in this very life. That is the Hinduism says. The goal of life is the attainment of spiritual freedom or mukti and not heaven. There are numerous paths to reach the spiritual goal, and to each one one's own path. They can achieve their reality following their own path. Every soul being potentially divine, everyone will saved ultimately, and no one will be left out, because it is the real nature of Jiva. It is the real nature of that spirit. That real nature is Brahman, Sat Chit Ananda. Once we will achieve that all perfection, all pervading, all powerful spirit, if we try our best to achieve the goal, achieve the ultimate reality, we will achieve in this very life. But if not, then also we will achieve, but it will take time because it is our real nature. Once or after we will achieve that ultimate reality, that truth is divinity, that is Brahman, Ishvara. My all prayers to that divine power that it takes us to that reality. By His help we will achieve the ultimate truth. Thank you all. Sarve bhavantu sukhino, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyachit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Namaste, Swamiji. Thank you so much for your eloquent talk. And thank you so much for giving us the time to give this talk. Without much delay, our next speaker, I just want to say something about Swamiji. If you look at the great shapers who changed the world, Adi Shankaracharya, Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swamiji, or like Hamadi mentioned, Netaji, they disappeared within 50 years, much less actually. Swamiji not even lived in 40 years. So they left the human, they left this earth, but they have left such a huge impact on their life. The next speaker is a very young speaker. He's Orchishman Kanjilal. He's a grade 4 student from Toronto, Canada. They are the future of the world. I am nearly 50, so they're the future of the world. So he will be reading an incident from Swami Vivekananda's life. He's very much interested in Swamiji, and he will be reading an incident from Swami Vivekananda's life. This is a video, I think, right, Ananti?
Yes, he sent us a video, and exactly that's why I reached to a kid, because I thought it will be great to conclude our today's program with our next generation, because they will take Swamiji in forward. So I will share now.
Namaste Yotirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharine. Namaskar. I will read an event from Swami Vivekananda's life from a book named A Simple Life of Swami Vivekananda. Naren meets Sri Ramakrishna. Naren was interested in religion, but he had lost faith in many of the teachings of Hinduism. He did not know what to believe. He had gone to many religious people, but they could not help him. One day he decided to visit Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was a great Hindu saint. He came from a village called Kamarpukar in the Hooghly district. At that time, he was living at the Kali temple of Dakshineshwar near Calcutta. He lived a life of prayer and meditation and thought always of God. Many people came to him and he solved their spiritual problems. Narayan had heard about Sri Ramakrishna from his teacher, Professor Hasti, and from one of his relatives. He had also seen him at the house of this relative in Calcutta. Now he decided to visit him at Dakshinaswar to see whether Sri Ramakrishna could help him in any ways. Narayan took a few friends with him. Sri Ramakrishna received them kindly, and Narayan sang 2 songs at his request. Then Sri Ramakrishna took him into another room. He treated Narayan as if he were a dear friend who had just returned from a long journey. He even wept for joy and fed Narayan with sweets with his own hands. Narayan could not understand all this. He thought that perhaps Sri Ramakrishna was a madman, but he promised to come again. When they returned to the other room, Sri Ramakrishna began to speak about God. He said that we can see and speak to God just as we see and speak to our friends. Narayan did not know what to think. Sri Ramakrishna had acted in a strange way, but he also seemed to be a great saint. About a month later, this time alone, Narayan came again, this time alone. Sri Ramakrishna treated him kindly and asked him to sit by his side. Then he touched Narayan. At this touch, Narayan had a strange experience. The walls and the room seemed to whirl round and then vanish. He thought he was about to die and he became frightened. He cried out, "What is this that you are doing to me? I have my parents at home." Sri Ramakrishna laughed and began to stroke Narayan's chest. He said, "All right, let it rest now. Everything will come in time." At his touch, the strange experience was gone, and Narayan found everything the same as it had been before. A similar thing happened when Narayan visited Sri Ramakrishna for the 3rd time. He again lost consciousness at the touch of Sri Ramakrishna. He could not understand what had happened. He had a strong body and mind, but the saint could do with him whatever he liked by a mere touch. He could not explain how it happened. However, he understood that Sri Ramakrishna was no ordinary person. He came to have deep respect for him, though there were still many unanswered questions in his mind. Namaskar.
Orchishman, that was excellent. We absolutely enjoyed that real talk. Probably you are known as Archie by your friends. I don't know whether he's called as Archie by his friends, but in Canada, that's what. But always remember, you are the son, you're Orchishman, and you to come and talk about this, that's absolutely brilliant. So you will be carrying forward this message of Swamiji. We are too old. I'm too old, not Sri, sorry. So you will be carrying forward, you're the next generation, and Swamiji laid such a huge emphasis on the youth. So you are the forebearers of that lamp which Swamiji has not left, he has given us. So it's a marathon. It will go on and on and on. Namaskar. Hemanti, would you bring in Dr. Ghosh?
Yes, I think Dr. Ghosh is here. So, Dr. Ghosh. Yeah.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
At the outset, I must thank everyone, and especially Hemanti, for organizing this, splendid program today. It was really enchanting to hear from speakers around the world. A lot of lessons learned. But what I find, I have to add, a line which Vivekananda said. He said, "We alone live who live for others." they alone live who live for others. It means we as an individual cannot live our life, within the parochial boundaries of our mundane existence. It means we have to transcend. It means we have to reach beyond what we are now. It means we have to work. It means we have to put everything in action. We have to do what we can for the humanity. To keep Vivekananda's speech, to make it a reality. India has seen so much, a lot of people, a lot of icons, but still today, we find when we look at the Transparency International's data, we find we are not in the correct position. We find that before the community, world community, we are not up to the mark. We should be doing in practice, through work, exactly what Vivekananda or even Netaji has spoken of. I'm especially saying this because, I have to share, something which I faced. Once, I went to the Ramakrishna mission. So in the Ramakrishna mission, I was a guest of honor. Why, I don't know. So I was given, and it was during the afternoon. So they had given me the lunch with Maharaj and everyone, all those things. Subsequently, all of a sudden, it's a practical thing which I faced in my life. I'm telling you right now, because we do programs, but we are lagging behind. That's the most important thing in action. So let me come down to the point. It was in afternoon, so I went to a Ramakrishna mission. I wouldn't say which mission. And I was given, food for lunch with Maharaj and all those things. Now, subsequently, a poor person came. And the way he was treated is not good. He was just asked to go out. So immediately at that point of time, I protested. I said to Maharaj, Maharaj, এই প্লেটটা তো আমার, এটা যাবে ওনার, এটা হবে ওনার. This is the language I used in Bengali. That means this food which was given to me goes to that person. It's not for me. So he said, no, this food is for you. I said, no, not at all. It cannot be. So that was a lesson which I learned, a big lesson. And it makes me think that where we are, we have to rise above. It's duty. I feel it's everyone's duty to live in the mind of others. We should live in the love of others. We should live in the respect of others. And this can only be achieved if we do something out of mind, out of sheer love, affection. When we do our work, it is worship. And there must be highest regard for such. And that's what we need to do. Saying so, I tender my apology first for saying all these things at the end of this program. But this is the truth which I had to say. Saying all this, I thank again all of you, including Haimanti, for organizing this splendid event on this day. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank
you, Dr. Ghosh. Thank you. Like different people have different perspectives of how they treat humans. So, of course, there are different. And I heard from one of the Maharajas who said once that, Amra tum sadhu hote ashi. So there is a different journey everybody takes through. So how somebody is treated, of course, I would not equate with everybody else. So there are a lot of places where of course, there are different ways how people do. Of course, that's something, a lesson which we all should learn and we should all imbibe, and how we should move on and how we should treat humans. Thank you, Dr. Kosh.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, yes, we are now at the end of our journey today. First of all, I extend my most sincere pranam to Sri Sri Thakur, Ramakrishna, Sri Sri Ma Sarada, and Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda. The Almighty, the God, for making today's event a resounding success, truly. I wish may their blessings and grace always there for us. That is the prarthana from all of us to Sri Charan of Thakur, Ma and Swamiji. I couldn't pay my enough gratitude and pranam to all the eminent speakers who joined today and shared thoughts and wisdom on Swamiji. It was truly enlightened. My gratitude and pranam to Dr. Bandhopadhyay for moderating these webinars such a nice way and perfectly. And thank you for all your support. Thank you, Ronita Haldar, for your support, always being there for any need regarding any digital help. And last but not least, my pranam to my parents. I'm blessed to have you as my backbone. Today, we really got a lot of wisdom and thoughts shared by all the speakers. We had a nice time. We are looking forward to our future and blessings, seeking blessings from Almighty. I'm ending our program today. Thank you so much for being there with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Haimanti. Thank you very much.